He says, the Bible is the rock on which our republic rests. You can take a president like Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor says the Bible is indispensable to the safety and permanence of our institutions. Free government can't exist without it. That's what the founding fathers said. You also have Teddy Roosevelt, who said this. He says, the teachings of the Bible are so interwoven and entwined with our civic and social life, it'd be impossible for us to figure what life would be if these teachings were removed. The Bible has so shaped our culture. Now, we don't know that today because we're told, oh, it was all secular. And these. No, I could track you back through these cultural traits that we enjoy today and show you where it came from scripturally. Same thing with Harry Truman. Harry Truman says, the fundamental basis of our Bill of Rights comes from the teachings which we get from Exodus and St. Matthew, from Isaiah and St. Paul. He said, I don't think we emphasize that enough these days. He said that 50 years ago. I sure agree with him today. We don't emphasize that enough. But here's the president saying that. I mean, everybody knew this stuff. This was common knowledge. President Roosevelt said it this way, we cannot read the history of our rise and development as a nation without reckoning with the place which the Bible has occupied in shaping the advances of the Republic. You get President Ronald Reagan, who said it this way. President Reagan says, of the many influences that have shaped the United States of America into a distinctive nation of people, none may be said to be more fundamental and enduring than the Bible. He says, if we ever forget that we're one nation under God, we'll be what nation gone under. And see, that was what we knew throughout history. That's what we always believed. Every one of those guys just said exactly what George Washington said in this work right here. This is from 1796. This is his farewell address. This is the final address he gave when he left off. He says, guys, here's what's brought us to this point. Here's what we're going to have to do to survive. And in going through the farewell address, here's the warning that he gave the nation. He says, now, if you want us to survive, all the stuff we've done, if you want our politics to continue to do as well as it's been, this is what he said. He says, of all the habits and dispositions which lead to political prosperity, if you want your politics to do well, of all the habits and dispositions that lead to political prosperity, he said, religion and morality are indispensable supports. If you want government to work well, the two things you've got to have involved are religion and morality. That's not what we hear today. As a matter of fact, he went further. He gave us a litmus test. He said, in vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars. Washington, who is the great patriot himself, who had all the patriots at Valley Forge, who gave that initial badge of merit, that merit badge, he says, hey, I won't let you call yourself a patriot if you try to separate religion and morality from public affairs. That's the test of patriot. Whoa, that's strong stuff from President Washington. But you see, that's because we understood that religion and morality were the indispensable supports. Now, let me close with a challenge to you. We got to relearn our history. We got to tell others about our history. We got to defend it's time to be a patriot again, to defend religion and morality in public sphere. I mean, we got to do that. Let me close with this word from President Reagan. He gave this back in September of 1985. So 25 years ago, it's as if he delivered it today. This is what he said. He says, perhaps the greatest triumph of modern conservatism has been to stop allowing the left to put the average American on the moral defensive. We've got to get re-educated on who we are as a people and not let these guys shove us into a corner and keep us quiet. No. I mean, they love to shout at folks like Glenn and say, oh, that's not really the way it happened. It is the way it happened. And who cares what the loudmouths say if the rest of us know what the truth is and keep pushing back with the truth? And that's what he said. He says, we can't be on the moral defensive. He says, by average American, I mean the good, decent, rambunctious, and creative people who raise the families, go to church, and help out with the local library. Common Americans. He says, we have great work ahead of us. He said, once I said this is a wonderful time to be alive, and I meant that. He said, I meant that we're lucky not to live in pale and timid times. Here we are. These are not pale and timid times. He says, we're lucky not to live in pale and timid times. He says, we've been blessed with the opportunity to stand for something. He says, we have good reason to be hopeful and optimistic. He says, we've made much progress already, so let us go forth with good cheer and stout hearts, happy warriors out to seize back a country and a world to freedom. That's it. We need to be happy warriors out to seize back a country and a world to freedom, and we can do it, guys. God bless you. Thanks for letting me share with you.
Come here.
David, it's funny. It's funny because David and I have only known each other for 8 months, something like that. I've seen pictures of his family. I know his wonderful wife, but we've never done anything I would call fun together. Like, hey, let's go out and but yet I feel like David is becoming one of my best friends. He is a truly, truly honorable man, and I am humbled by the service that you have performed for so many years. Thank you.
Thanks.
So if you hang for a sec.
Okay.
David is hammered all the time, and just takes it.
Not that he knows anything about that, being hammered all the time.
He's a great example, and I wanted to ask you a couple of things. First of all, I came to you 5 months ago or so, and I said, like I had this genius idea, David, we just have to get all the faith together. We have to get everybody together, and we need our preachers and our pastors and our bishops to start talking about the fundamental principles of America. And he said, I want the Black Robe Regiment. I'm like, what? I didn't know about it until David talked about it. And honestly, I was backstage and I was with a bunch of people, so I didn't hear. Did you talk about the Black Robe?
No, sir, did not.
Okay. Explain quickly what the Black Robe Regiment is.
Black Robe Regiment was the preachers. They were responsible for all those things you saw in the Declaration. Historians have documented that every single right set forth in the Declaration of Independence had been preached from the American pulpit prior to 1763, which means the Declaration of Independence was nothing more than listening to the sermons that Americans had been listening to for decades leading up to it, which is why John Adams, when he was asked who's responsible for independence, he started listing preachers like Samuel Cooper and Jonathan Mayhew and George Whitefield and Charles Chauncey. The British agreed. The British said if it hadn't been for those stinking preachers, America would still be a happy British colony. So the British
And hang on just a second. That remains true today. If it's not for our preachers, if our people on the pulpit don't talk about politics, don't tell me who to vote for, don't tell me about the Republicans, don't tell me about the Democrats, tell me about the principles of America.
Right.
If God's people don't stand, we'll be a happy little colony again.
Yeah, exactly right. and so the British called them the Black Regiment, which is the robes they wore, the Black Robed Regiment. And when they sent the troops here, they targeted the preachers and tried to kill preachers all over America because of what they did. But that's the Black Robed Regiment. That's the preachers who led everything. They were the generals. They were the political leaders. You saw they signed the Declaration. I mean, they were into everything, and that's blessed us.
And let me tell you something. David is an evangelical, and David is, we're standing locked arms. And
lifetime friendship in 8 months.
And I don't know if he is here yet. Is Ryan Dobson here yet? Not yet. Dr. Dobson, Focus on the Family, he called this week, and Dr. Dobson, 2 years ago, kind of took one of my books apart because of my faith. And 2 days ago, Dr. Dobson called and said, we've been talking about what you're doing on the air and what you're standing for, and while we can't agree with faith and you don't agree with my view, etc., we want to stand together. He said, I'm sending my son to your American revival. He said he's got a whole bunch of things he's doing, but he wants to stop by and watch a little bit of it. I'm telling you, and David will verify, people are coming together.
Yeah.
And we must do everything we can to be welcome. And to put our differences aside for the big things. Stu and Pat are out in the back, and you guys are taking questions for all of the guests, right?
We are, and you can email your questions to us at revival@glennbeck.com. We already have some really important questions, Glenn. This one from Michael, who asks, what is that logo on your shirt? In other words, I think he's asking, who are you wearing today? Who is your designer?
This is George Washington. It's very nice. It comes in large colors. Tell me David's walking away like, dear God Almighty. Who are you wearing today, David? David, you can explain this.
This is actually what George Washington gave. This is the badge of merit. There are 3 of them known to still exist today. Washington is...
Hold on. Somebody call HR. He's touching me.
I'll do it again, too.
All right.
Washington was different from so many others in that he didn't want the generals to get recognition. He wanted the common people who did remarkable things to get recognition. And he would look out among the troops and he saw things that were courage. And by the way, if you read his diaries from Valley Forge, it'll make you cry to see what he saw among his troops. As he saw that, he wanted to honor those guys because nobody got honored in that era by the British troops. If you're a commoner, you're a peon. You're down low. Washington wanted to exalt the common man and exalt particularly virtues of honor and courage and faith and integrity. And when he saw it, the commander-in-chief gave you that badge right there. It was on a little bracelet that you got to wear on your arm. There's 3 of them still known to exist today. Now, they've taken that and turned it into the Purple Heart because it was a Purple Heart. Now it means you've been wounded in battle. But Washington's original badge of merit was a Purple Heart to honor and recognize great traits that he saw among common, average, ordinary soldiers.
And without giving you any information, because I am not going to put people through what he's gone through and what I have to go through every single day, just for standing up, what you believe. But I tell you, we are assembling people on 8/28 in Washington, D.C., that have earned this, that have truly earned this. And we are bringing this back for the common people.
That's right.
On 8/28, 3 people are going to receive it. 3 people are going to receive it. And I also will tell you that David knows, and I know, we've been working on something. At the end of 8/28, it will take your breath away. We were backstage talking about it, and the 3 of us, David's wife and I, we were all talking, and I said, this is what's going to happen at the very end. And we've talked about it a million times, and I said, this is exactly how it's going to come. And David, all 3 of us said, oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. The hair is standing on end. It is going to be a historic moment. Please tell your friends, and don't miss 8/28. If you can make it, please. If you know somebody lives out in the East and they can come, please come. It is not a tea party. It is life-changing what is happening on 8/28.
All right, Glenn, another question for you. This comes from Kirsten, and it relates to the last one here. A lot of people are moving against 8/28 by saying you are dishonoring the Purple Heart. Where do you see the place of the Purple Heart going forward?
Where the Purple Heart already is. I mean, I'm saying that we need to honor merit inside, not just for the troops. We know if you look at all of the things that are happening, if you look at the things that we trust and the things that we hold up in high esteem now, the troops are number 1. In fact, they're the only thing that we look at now and say that those are honorable people.
That's right.
You're going to meet. I'm going to showcase some people. Marcus Luttrell will be there, and I'm going to showcase some other people. I met a guy this week. We had him on the radio. His hands were blown off. His hands had been blown off. This guy, he still wants to serve. They're remarkable, remarkable people. Well, we can't only have the people in our military being the only honorable, remarkable people. You need to do that. I need to do that. We all need to do that. And all I'm saying with this is, for all the rest of us, you know what? Are you willing to lose your hands for this? Are you willing to lose your house for it? Are you willing to lose sleep? Are you willing to have people just bash you in the head over and over and over again? You know, it is an insult to say that at this point in our history that we can compare ourselves to those who stood with Martin Luther King. We haven't had a dog sicked on us. We haven't had fire hoses opened on us. We haven't had a baton to the head yet. We may. But if that happens, the only way we will stand is if we understand honor and merit.